The Harrisons almost missed the card this year. It was wedged between two thick store catalogs, plain white and slightly crooked, like someone had folded it by hand. No stamp, no return address, just Harrison, written in blue ink that looked a little shaky, as if the writer had been cold or nervous. Mark brought it inside with the rest of the mail. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon rolls and burnt coffee, the kind of December morning that should have felt cozy. But the envelope sat on the counter like a small, quiet threat. Lauren frowned the second she saw it. Already? It's not even the 23rd. Emily leaned over her shoulder, arms crossed. Tell me it's not another one of those freak cards. Mark forced a smile, but even he didn't sound convinced. Maybe someone finally decided to put a return address this time. They all knew the truth. Every year, without fail, the card appeared, sometimes on the porch, sometimes in the mailbox, twice inside the locked house. No one had ever seen who delivered it. The police brushed it off as a prank. The neighbors shrugged, and the Harrisons tried their best to laugh it away. Lauren carefully opened the flap. Inside was a single photograph. It showed their dining room decorated for Christmas, candles lit, plates set, garland tucked neatly around the centerpiece. They were all in the picture, Mark raising a glass, Lauren smiling, Emily pretending not to smile, and little Noah stuffing his face with potatoes. It looked warm, perfect, like a memory they should have had, but they hadn't even decorated yet. The plates were still boxed in the basement, and last night they'd all been out of town at a relative's cabin. Emily pointed at the corner of the photo, her voice thin. "Mom, look at the timestamp." Red digital numbers glowed at the bottom. 12/22/02/13. Lauren's hand tightened around the picture. That's tonight, 2 a.m. No one spoke. Then, from somewhere deep in the house, a floorboard creaked slow and heavy, like a footstep that didn't want to be heard.
Mark was the first to check the alarm system. The keypad blinked its usual green, completely calm, as if nothing unusual had happened in the middle of the night. No alerts, no motion triggers, no door breaches. Lauren scrolled through the camera feed on her phone, her thumb moving faster with every passing second. "There's nothing for 2 a.m., she murmured. "It jumps from 1:47 straight to 3:10, like the file got deleted." "Or never existed," Emily said quietly. They all stood in the hallway now, staring at the dark dining room. Morning sunlight pushed through the blinds, striping the table in pale bands. On the surface, everything was normal. Too normal. Untouched, undisturbed. But then Noah pointed. "Hey, wasn't that chair closer in before?" Lauren followed his finger. One of the dining chairs sat at a slight angle, as if someone had pulled it out halfway and pushed it back without caring about lining it up. She knew she hadn't left it that way. She would have noticed. She always did. Mark stepped closer. "Hold on." His fingers brushed the tabletop. There was a faint ring of wax on the wood, almost invisible unless the light hit just right. "Candles," he said. "Like in the photo." "But we haven't used candles since last Christmas," Lauren whispered. Emily knelt down and touched the floor. "And this, look!" She held up 2 tiny green needles. Pine needles. "Where did these come from? We don't even have the tree up yet." A gust of wind rattled the kitchen window, but the sound felt too long, too drawn out, like the house was exhaling, remembering something the Harrisons shouldn't have forgotten. Mark straightened slowly. "So whoever took that picture was in here last night, in our house." "No," Emily corrected. "They weren't just in the house." Her eyes lifted to the dark reflection in the dining room window, where their shapes hovered like ghosts. "They set everything up. They decorated. They made us sit down. They took the picture." Lauren felt a coldness slide down her spine, settling between her ribs. "But we weren't home. We were miles away." "Yeah," Emily said softly. "That's the part I can't get past." For a long moment they stood in silence, the house creaking softly around them. The warmth of the morning was gone. Even the sunlight looked thinner, weaker somehow. Then Mark slowly turned toward the basement door. "Whatever happened in here last night, it wasn't finished when we left." The basement door creaked open on its own, just an inch, like something below had been listening.
Lauren kept all the previous cards in a small wooden box at the back of the hallway closet. She'd always told herself it was for evidence, but in truth, she never pushed hard for answers. The cards were creepy, yes, but harmless. At least, they had been. Now the box felt heavier than she remembered, as though the years inside it had gained weight. She carried it to the dining table, still angled wrong, still faintly smelling of cold wax, and set it down. The others gathered around her as she lifted the lid. Inside lay 12 envelopes, each one identical, plain, white, hand-folded edges. Mark picked up the oldest from their first winter in the house. "We thought this was cute," he said quietly, "a Secret Santa thing." Emily pulled out a card from year 3. It showed the family decorating a tree. "This never happened," she said, tapping the image. "I was sick that Christmas. I never left my bed." Lauren's breath caught. "Check the window." In the corner of the photo, reflected in the glass, a silhouette stood behind them. Tall, out of place, blurred like a person captured mid-movement. Mark grabbed another card, one from the 6th year. The photo showed the kids opening presents at sunrise. At first glance, it seemed perfectly normal, but then Noah pointed at something behind the couch. A shadow. But not cast by the tree or the lamp. A shadow shaped like someone kneeling, watching. They kept going, card after card. The more they examined them, the more details appeared, details they had never noticed before. In one, Lauren's face seemed slightly different, her hair shorter than she ever wore it. In another, Emily's sweatshirt had the logo of a school she'd never attended. Some decorations in the background were ones the Harrisons didn't own. "These aren't memories," Emily whispered. "They're versions." Mark frowned. "Versions of what?" "Us," she said. "Different us. Different years that didn't happen, but someone took these photos like they did." Lauren swallowed hard. "But why show them to us?" No one answered. Then Noah, who had been quiet until now, dug to the bottom of the box. "Mom, this one's not like the others." It was a card they'd never seen before. Yellowed, edges frayed, older than their time in the house. On the front, a blurry image of a family of 4 sitting at the same dining table. But it wasn't the Harrisons. Lauren flipped it over.
On the back, in uneven handwriting, "You will understand soon. Do not leave." A chill swept through the dining room, as if the house itself recognized the message. And somewhere behind the basement door came a soft, deliberate knock. The knock from the basement didn't repeat, but it lingered in everyone's nerves long after the silence returned. Mark locked the basement door out of instinct, though none of them believed a lock mattered anymore. By afternoon, he'd had enough of theories. He needed answers, real ones, not shadows in photographs. So he drove to the only person he knew who might remember something about the house, a retired local officer who'd been working this district decades before the Harrisons arrived. The man lived alone in a weathered single-story home on the edge of town, surrounded by bare trees and wind chimes that clattered even without wind. He recognized the address Mark mentioned before Mark finished the question. "That house?" the officer said, lowering himself into an armchair. "Haven't heard that address in a long time. Figured they'd torn it down." "What happened there? Please, my family, we're getting things in the mail. Strange things." "Huh, mail. Sure. That's how it starts." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "There was a family before yours, 4 of them. Seemed normal enough. Holiday decorations, neighborhood barbecues, the whole picture-perfect setup. But every December they'd file unusual reports. Items moved, lights turning on at night, scents of pine or candles when nothing was lit. Once they claimed someone had set their dining table while they slept." He paused. "We thought they were just stressed. Holidays make people strange." Mark's stomach tightened. The dining table, the candles, the chairs. What happened to them? He asked. The officer looked toward the window, as if expecting someone to be listening. "Official report said gas leak. Whole family lost in their sleep." A beat. "But unofficially, none of us believed it. Too many things didn't add up. And the daughter, the oldest, she survived because she wasn't home that night. Afterwards, she said the house never wanted all 4 of them at the table at once, that it corrected things when they didn't follow whatever it expected." Mark felt a coldness spreading through his chest. "Where is she now, the daughter?" The officer shook his head. "Moved away. Changed her name a few times. Didn't want to be found. But she left one message with the department before she disappeared." He stood slowly and opened an old drawer, pulling out a faded note taped to a scrap of cardboard. He handed it to Mark. On it were 4 words, written in firm black ink. "Don't ignore the photos." The wind chimes outside suddenly clattered violently, though the air was still. Mark's phone buzzed at that exact moment. A text from Lauren. Just one line. "Mark, another envelope just appeared inside the kitchen, and it has your name only."
Lauren didn't wait for Mark to reply. The second she saw the envelope with only his name on it, Mark, in the same careful blue handwriting, her instinct screamed to get the kids out. Emily grabbed Noah's coat, and within minutes they were in the car, backed out of the driveway, the house shrinking in the rearview mirror like a threat they'd narrowly escaped. They drove to a small roadside motel off the highway. 1 floor, flickering neon sign, doors facing the parking lot. The kind of place no one would think twice about at night. Lauren kept checking the rearview mirror anyway. Inside the motel room, the air smelled of detergent and cheap citrus cleaner. The curtains were thin, the beds too soft, the carpet a vague shade of brown. But it felt, if only barely, like distance, as if the house couldn't watch them here. Emily locked the door, then latched the chain, then wedged a chair under the handle. "Do motels get mail?" Noah asked. "Not the kind we're running from," Emily said. Lauren sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the envelope in her hands. She hadn't opened it. Couldn't. It felt warm, somehow, like it remembered being held by someone else. Mark was still driving back, still not here. She placed the envelope gently on the table. "No one touches it until your father arrives." Hours passed. The highway hummed outside. The kids drifted into uneasy sleep. Lauren's head kept jerking up at every sound. The ice machine, a door slamming, footsteps outside the room. At 1:40 a.m., someone walked by their door, slow, heavy. Too heavy to be a motel guest dragging luggage. The footsteps paused right outside their room. Emily held her breath. Lauren felt her pulse banging inside her ears. A soft sound slid under the door. Paper. Lauren stared at the thin rectangle on the carpet. Another envelope. No knock, no footsteps leaving. She crawled toward it, hands shaking. This one was even smaller, almost delicate. On the front, in the same handwriting, "All of you." Emily's voice cracked. "Mom, don't open it!" But Lauren already had. Inside was a photograph of the motel room, their room, taken from the upper corner near the ceiling. The angle showed all four of them sleeping. Lauren propped against the headboard, Emily curled on the second bed, Noah wrapped in blankets on the floor. Lauren stared, throat closing, because the timestamp at the bottom read 12:23, 01:41 a.m. 1 minute ago, meaning whoever took it had already been inside, or was still here. A soft creak came from the bathroom door. It was slightly open, and Lauren knew, without knowing how, that it had been fully closed when they first arrived.
Mark arrived at the motel just before dawn, pale and exhausted. But the moment he saw Lauren's face, he understood. Whatever they were running from had followed them here, too. The kids were still asleep, huddled together like a single creature afraid to uncurl. Mark shut the bathroom door gently, checked every corner twice, then pulled Lauren outside to talk in the cold morning air. "What did the envelope say, the one with my name?" he asked. Lauren hesitated. "I didn't open yours. I couldn't. But the one that slid under the door, Mark, it had a photo of us sleeping. The timestamp was from a minute before I picked it up." Mark's jaw tightened. He didn't tell her what the retired officer had said about the previous family. Not yet. Instead, he whispered, "We can't keep running. There has to be a pattern, a rule." "A rule for what?" she asked. Mark didn't answer. They checked out of the motel within minutes and drove back, not home, but to a diner down the road, a place that smelled like burnt bacon and stale coffee, but the presence of other people felt safer. The Harrisons sat in a booth, trying to look like a normal family having breakfast. It didn't work. Emily stared at the unopened envelope with Mark's name on it. "Dad, if it's meant for you, maybe you should look." He finally slid a finger under the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No photo this time, just text, written in the same steady blue pen. "You break the moment when you leave. You make it worse when you hide. Stay in the house on the night, all of you or none of you." Lauren exhaled shakily. "Night? What night? Christmas Eve?" Mark nodded. "That's tomorrow." A waitress passed by, smiling politely, unaware of the weight crushing the family inside the booth. Noah drummed his fingers nervously. "Does that mean we're supposed to go back? Home?" Emily shook her head. "Or maybe it's a trap." "Maybe everything is," Mark said quietly. But one thing was clear. The cards weren't random. They were instructions, warnings, rituals. Something expected them to behave a certain way every December, and each time they deviated, running to a motel, refusing the photo seen, the response escalated. Lauren shivered. If the rule is all or none, what happens if we split up again? Mark didn't answer. He didn't have to. They all remembered the story from the officer, the family of 4 who died when only 3 were home. Emily rubbed her forehead. "Dad, if it's meant for you, maybe you should look." He finally slid a finger under the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No photo this time, just text, written in the same steady blue pen. "Tonight begins." They didn't go home. Not yet. Mark drove aimlessly through the outskirts of town, past empty fields and half-dead billboards, until Lauren finally spoke the thought they were all avoiding. "We need to find her, the daughter from the family before us." Emily pulled out her phone immediately. "Dad, what was her name? Did the officer tell you?" He didn't know her current one, but he said she changed it a few times. She might still be somewhere nearby. It took Emily less than an hour to track down a woman whose age and history lined up, a receptionist at a storage facility outside town. When they arrived, the place looked abandoned, long rows of metal doors, wind whipping dust across cracked pavement. Inside the small office, a woman was sorting keys. 30s, tired eyes, a faint scar on her wrist that she kept brushing with her thumb, like an old habit. She looked up and froze when she saw the Harrisons. "You live in that house?" she said quietly, not a question. Lauren stepped forward. "We've been getting the cards, the photos. We don't understand what any of it means." The woman's face paled. "I told myself it wouldn't start again, not after all these years." Emily pulled the newest envelope from her coat and placed it on the counter. "Please, tell us what you know." The woman shut her eyes, gathering her breath. "They're not warnings, not exactly. The cards, they're corrections, attempts to fix a night that keeps happening wrong, every year." Mark frowned. "Fix what?" "My family's last Christmas." Her voice cracked. "We were supposed to be together, all 4 of us, but I wasn't home that night, and whatever watches that house, whatever repeats those moments, it keeps trying to make other families reenact the evening the right way." Lauren felt cold bloom under her skin. "And if we don't?" The woman finally looked at them, truly looked, and her expression was more pity than fear. "Then the house chooses for you." Outside, one of the metal storage doors slammed open on its own, though there was no wind. The woman whispered, "If you still have a chance, don't let it split you apart, not like it did mine." And for the first time, the Harrisons realized she wasn't warning them. She was apologizing. They drove away from the storage facility in complete silence. Even Noah didn't speak. The woman's words hung in the car like fog. "Corrections. Choose for you. Don't split apart.
By the time they reached a quiet back road, Mark pulled over. He couldn't keep pretending he hadn't felt it too. That strange, heavy awareness in their house every December, like something waiting for them to slip out of place. Emily broke the silence first. "Dad, there's still your envelope, the one with your name on it." Mark had forgotten he was still holding it. It felt heavier than before, almost warm. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single photograph. Not a family scene this time. Just the dining room table. Their table. Set for 4. Holiday plates. Candles. Garland. Everything arranged perfectly, exactly as in the earlier photos. But only 3 chairs had plates in front of them. The 4th chair sat pushed back from the table, empty, waiting. On the back of the photo, written in blue ink, "One must not be there. Choose before the night decides." Lauren's breath hitched. What does that mean? Who shouldn't be at the table? One of us? Why? Mark didn't answer first. He kept staring at the empty chair in the photo, the way it seemed slightly blurred, as if something had been sitting there once, or would be soon. Emily snatched the picture. Her voice trembled. "It wants us together, but not all of us. That makes no sense." "No," Mark said quietly. "It makes too much sense. The officer told me the previous family died because only 3 were home that night. Maybe the house doesn't want 4. Maybe it never did." Lauren shook her head violently. "We're not choosing someone to stay away. We're not playing by rules we don't understand." A gust of wind slammed against the car. Noah whimpered. But it wasn't the wind, because another envelope had just appeared, wedged under the windshield wiper, though no one had approached the car. Mark stepped out slowly, heart pounding, and retrieved it. Inside was a slip of paper. Nothing more. 2 words. Decide soon. Behind them, the road stretched empty in both directions. And still, they all felt watched. They drove home because there was nowhere else left to go. Every road felt wrong. Every motel felt watched, and the woman's warning echoed in all of them. Don't let it split you apart. But the message on the new photo said the opposite. 2 rules impossible to follow at the same time. By dusk, the Harrisons stood in their driveway, staring at the dark outline of the house. No lights on, no movement inside. Just the faintest glow from the dining room window, like the room itself was lit by memory, not electricity. Mark unlocked the door. The moment it opened, warm air drifted out, cinnamon, pine, candle smoke, none of which they had left burning. Inside, the house was decorated exactly as in the photographs. Garland, candles, plates, the good china laid out neatly, everything arranged with impossible precision. Even the chairs were angled perfectly, except one. The 4th chair sat pulled back, slightly turned, empty, waiting. Emily whispered, "Dad, we didn't do this. No one did." Lauren grabbed Mark's arm. "We can leave. We don't have to."
Before she could finish, the lights flickered, not off, like overlaid. Like another version of the dining room flashed for a split second on top of the real one. Different plates, different candles, different clothes. Then another flicker, another version, and another. Dozens of ghost moments, layered and broken, flickering through the room as if time was shuffling through its own memories, searching for the right one. Noah covered his ears. "Make it stop!" Mark stepped toward the empty chair. "It wants a specific version of tonight, one where someone isn't here." Lauren pulled him back. "We're not sacrificing yourself. We don't even know if that's what it wants." More flickers, faster now. The table changed shape. The candles changed height. In one flicker, scorch marks covered the walls. In another, snow blew through a broken window. In another, the room was empty. No house at all, just darkness. Emily pointed toward the hallway. "Look!" A shadow figure stood at the end of the hall, not approaching, not moving, just observing. Its outline flickered like the rest of the room, as if it belonged to every version and none of them. Mark stepped forward. "I think if we all stay here, something worse happens. And if one of us leaves, maybe that ends it." Lauren shook her head. "We decide together, as a family." But the house was done waiting. The candles on the table suddenly flared with bright, unnatural flame, and the front door slammed shut on its own. The choice, it seemed, was no longer theirs.
The slammed door echoed through the house like a final verdict. The candles kept burning, too tall, too steady, casting stretched shadows along the walls. The dining room flickered with alternate versions of itself, each one lingering for half a heartbeat longer than before. The Harrisons huddled together near the table. The empty chair stood angled toward them, almost expectant. Then the shadow figure at the end of the hall finally moved. Not forward, sideways, as if slipping between frames of time. With each shift, its outline sharpened. In one flicker, it was tall. In another, short. In another, almost child-sized. A compilation of every person who had ever stood in that house, or would. Lauren whispered, "What does it want from us?" The shadow turned, no face, no features, just a gesture. It pointed at the table, at the empty chair. Then, in a blink, the room fell completely still. No flickers, no alternate versions, just silence thick enough to swallow breath. A new envelope lay on the table. No one had seen it appear. Mark reached for it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single photograph. This one not printed, but handwritten on glossy paper. A rough sketch, almost frantic. The drawing showed the Harrisons, but only 3 of them sitting at the table. One silhouette was missing, scribbled out, erased violently. On the bottom corner, only 3 leave. Emily backed away, horror rising in her voice. "It's saying someone has to stay, forever, like the girl's family, like it's filling a space." Lauren grabbed her hand. "We're not leaving anyone." The dining room light snapped off. In the darkness, the shadow figure rushed forward, not attacking, not grabbing, passing through each of them one by one like icy smoke, freezing their lungs. Every flicker of the room returned at once, hundreds of overlapping scenes, future versions, past versions, broken ones. In each, a family of 4 sat at the table, except in some versions, one seat was always shifting, empty, changing who was missing. The house wasn't choosing who stayed. It wanted them to choose. Lauren shouted over the rising hum, "Everyone, hold on to each other!" They locked hands. The room screamed with collapsing timelines, wood groaning, walls splitting, windows rattling from the inside out.
The shadow figure surged upward like a wave of black static, and then everything went white. Just a flash, then silence. When the lights returned, the dining room was normal. No decorations, no candles, no plates, no flickers, no shadow. And the empty chair was gone. Not moved, not broken. Gone, as if it had never existed. The Harrisons were still holding hands. Mark checked the front door. It opened easily, no resistance, no cold breath of something watching. Lauren whispered, "Is it over?" There was no answer. But the house felt still, quiet, emptied of expectation, like a stage after the actors have left. They packed and drove away before sunrise. They never spent another night in that house. Within a month it was sold. Within 2, they moved 3 states away. And for almost a year, nothing happened. But the following December, in their new home, Emily went out to check the mail. She froze. There, sitting alone, inside the empty mailbox, was a plain white envelope. No stamp, no return address. Her name written in blue ink. Just her name. Emily. She didn't open it. She didn't need to, because the envelope was slightly thicker than the others. Inside, she could feel the edge of a single photograph and the shape of what felt like a wooden chair.